Okay, Chair is now reconvening our March 6th, 2025 meeting of the Board of Trustees. Before we move on to that, since we now have more of our admin and staff here. Let me hand it over to our Pouhana to introduce the administrative team that we have.
Mahalo, Chair, Vice Chair, Trustees. Joining us today for our meeting, we have Chief Operating Officer Kehau Pu'u, Chief Financial Officer Ramona Hink, Endowment Director Ryan Lee, Chantel Belay, Strategy Consultant, Strategy and Implementation, Interim Corporation Counsel Everett Ota, Interim Senior Legal Counsel Nichi Ozawa, Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation Elena Farden, Senior Director of Hawaiian Cultural Affairs Hailama Farden, Director of Advocacy Lena Alale, Director of Uivi Wellbeing and Aina Momona, Kuike Kamakea Ohelo, Director of Economics and Business Resilience, Pony Askew, IT Systems Engineer and Administrators, Daniel Santos and Arlene Aguinaldo, and Corey Nakamoto, Director of Human Resources. Mahalo.
Okay, mahalo Pouhana, and then also joining us is, along with our trustees, is our board counsel, Richard Naivieha Werdeman. So welcome, everyone. Chair's going to take our agenda a little out of order because we have someone that we would like to recognize and honor. So Chair is going to jump to celebrations on the agenda, and I would like to recognize our Chair Emerita Trustee Hulu Lindsay, while also simultaneously calling up a special person that's in our presence today, who will be leaving the Office of Hawaiian Affairs next week. Could we have Amber come up and join us at the front? Amber, maybe join us by Pouhana.
On behalf of all of your fellow workers and the Board of Trustees, we want to thank you for your service. And give you this certificate of commendation for the service you put in. As Amber's been here on 3 different periods and over 10 years. So as you well know, Amber can fix everything, and we don't know who's going to be fixing it in the board suite after she leaves us. But I want to mahalo her. She's going to go to the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, and what better place than another Hawaiian organization. So
Mahalo.
I want to thank Trustee Lindsay and the entire Board of Trustees and the administration for allowing me to serve our beneficiaries in this capacity. It's been an adventure. I've loved every minute of it, and though I'm sad to leave all of you, you folks have been family. And I always tell people there's no other place to work for than the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. It is in Ohana, but I'm also excited for the next step and to, bridge gaps and create stronger partnerships as Native Hawaiian organizations.
Mahalo, Amber. Trustees, let's take a real quick recess so we can go out and take a quick key with Amber. Is that okay? Okay, Chair's reconvening the meeting of the Board of Trustees. We're going to take one of our agenda items out of order. That's going to be the agenda item for the Committee on Budget and Finance. These would be previously approved in our standing committee meeting concerning upcoming event sponsorships that are very important to these organizations and our Lahui. Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to testify on any of these items?
No one is signed up to speak on any of these items.
Okay, then the chair recognized the Committee on Budget and Finance, the Vice Chair, Trustee Waihe'e. We'll start with action item number 2509.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve all funding for a whole Koakoa Lahui event sponsorship to Nurture Cultivate Inc. for the 2025 Paina Makahiki event on March 8, 2025 in the amount of $5,000.
Trustee Ahuna, Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa Izik.
Yes.
Oh, thank you. You're still on. Thank you. Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay.
Aye.
Trustee Souza.
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 9 yes votes.
Okay, moving to item number 2.
Mr. Chairman, if there's no one signed up, I'd like to move to approve OHA funding for a Koakoa Lahui event sponsorship to St. Andrew's School for the 2025 Queen Emma Ball luau on the square event on March 13th, 2025 in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
Discussion, members, trustees, if not, roll call vote.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza, Trustee Wahehe,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 9 yes votes.
Okay, and item number 3.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve funding for a Ho'akoakoa Lahui event sponsorship to Ho'oulu Ike Center for Hula and Mele for the 2025 Aina Ho'o Pula Pula Mele and Hula Conference event on March 15th, 2025 in the amount of $13,500.
Any discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna, Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa, Trustee Alapa. I can come back to you.
Okay.
Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Wahehe,
Yes.
Chair Kahele,
Aye.
and Trustee Alapa.
Yes.
Mahalo. You have 9 yes votes.
Okay, item number 4.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve OHA funding for a Ho'akoa Lahui event sponsorship to Oaha Ikalani for the 2025 Ka'elehua event on March 15, 2025 in the amount of $5,000.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna, Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Mahalo. Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Wahehe,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 9 yes votes.
Item number 5.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve OHA funding for a Ho'akoakoa Lahui event sponsorship to Hui o Kuapa for the 2025 Ke Aupuni Palapala Professional Development Workshop event on March 17th, 2025 in the amount of $10,000.
Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Ahuna, Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
Aye.
Mahalo. Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Wahehe,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 9 yes votes.
Thank you. Number 6.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to move to approve OHA funding for a Ho'akoakoa Lahui event sponsorship to Pouhana Ike for the Spirit Fest 2025 event on March 21st, 2025 in the amount of $15,000.
Second. Susan. Discussion? Roll call.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria,
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza, Trustee Wahehe,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 9 yes votes.
Mahalo lewa. Hey, also, let's make sure the record reflects that Trustee Alapa is here. I know we didn't do a roll call vote, we reconvened, but and part of the reason for taking some agenda items out of order is we have Trustee Alapa joining us. We know she's not feeling well. Clearly, you can hear her. So we hope you feel better, Trustee Alapa. Wishing you a speedy recovery, but that's part of the reason why we're taking our votes now. Okay, we're gonna move on to the, oh, we do? Okay, I'm sorry. How about recognize Trustee Souza to read the number 6 action item?
Mr. Chair, I'd like to approve BF action item number 2514. Approval of OHA funding for a Ho'akoakoa Lahui event sponsorship to Kuana Ike for the Spirit Fest 2025 event on March 21st, 2025 in the amount of $15,000. Second.
Okay, disregard.
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, we're gonna approve the minutes. So Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to testify on the approval of minutes?
No one is signed up to speak on the minutes.
Okay, and just for the record, this will be the February 6th, 2025 minutes. In addition, it includes looks like your July 23rd site visits to Kana'i Olomoa Heao, the Ko'olau Limu project, our Kauai Island Community Meeting and Kauai Island Board of Trustees meeting that the board previously did on the island of Kauai. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
So move.
So moved, seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna. Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
And Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 9 yes votes.
Okay, we will now take up Board of Trustee action item 2504. This would be the revision to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustees bylaws. Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to speak on this item?
Yes, we have one person. We have Jermaine Myers.
Great. Aloha, Jermaine.
Aloha, Chair. You can put that timer over here. So
Lehuash, asking for the timer.
that's okay. I can always just look back there. That's okay. I can just peek back there. Aloha, Chair,
Aloha.
Vice Chair, Trustees. Oh, there. My name is Jermaine Myers. I'm an OHA beneficiary for beneficiary advocacy and empowerment. I'm also a Nanakuli Hawaiian Homestead lessee. Action item 2504, OHA's bylaws. Article 2 descriptions states chair or chairperson means the chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the office. The chairperson, the one and only. However, why for vice chairperson did it strike out the and replace it with a? Vice chair or vice chairperson means the striked out. Now it says a vice chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. The means one and only. A means one of. Should be only one vice chair. Therefore, it should remain not stricken out and replaced with an A. Next, to keep the board apprised of legal matters in the bylaws. Article 11, Legal Counsel. B states, the chairperson or designee, subject to prior approval of the board, may request any written or verbal legal opinion from OHA's Corporate Counsel, Department of the Attorney General, or from any other external legal counsel. Where a request is made in writing and a legal opinion is rendered by the Department of the Attorney General or any other external legal counsel, such opinion along with a copy of the written request for such opinion shall be immediately distributed to all board members in written form. I feel that if the request is made to an OHA's corporate counsel, when the legal opinion is rendered, it should also be immediately distributed to all the board members in written form, not just opinions from the AG or any other external legal counsel. And so likewise in C, it says the same thing for the administrator. The only thing is that it took out OHA's corporate counsel or OHA's legal counsel, and I feel that that should be added before the Department of Attorney General. It's really important for trustees to be aware of all incidents that the administrator needs a legal opinion, most especially when it comes to HR matters. I was the HR benefits administrator for a local bank with 1,800 employees on payroll. I work hand in hand with our legal team weekly when processing ADA reasonable accommodations requests, workers' comp incidents, and enforcing state laws such as Hawaii's laws for expressing breast milk while at work. HIPAA is one of the biggest liability issues. Employees' medical conditions is on an as need to know basis, and the law clarifies that not many people need to know. So if the employees want to share about their medical condition, that's their kuleana. but managers, trustees, administration should not be disclosing subordinates' medical condition to anyone without the employee's consent. So it's not fun when someone calls the Department of Labor. So that's why it's really important that that legal counsel get clarified under the legal. Article 9, meetings. G, minutes of meetings. It states must be in compliance with HRS 92-9B and some of its requirements. I feel it's missing one of the most important compliance criteria, which is the minutes shall be made available to the public by posting on the board's website within 40 days after the meeting. Sidebar, even if it's in draft form pending the committee or the board's approval, the draft must be posted within 40 days after the meeting with the watermark draft. Also for written minutes, A, I notice it's missing, but the minute shall give a true reflection of the matters discussed at the meeting and the views of the participants. Participants is everyone, trustees, administration staff, guests, and testifiers. This was one of the things that always came up with the neighborhood board, that boards failed to truly give a reflection of the matter. So you don't have to do verbatim, but it has to get the true reflection, and not, shorten and so summarize. So that's only for written, but I see that you guys are going to video now, which is so much easier. So, but it has a timestamp, etc. Te aku aku, God bless all of you.
Thanks. Hey, Jermaine, first of all, thank you. You may be the only beneficiary in the whole state that actually went through every page of our proposed bylaw changes and took the time, even down to the word "the." So what I'd like you to do is, Everett, could you please get together with Jermaine while we're having this discussion to get those, well, unless you have the written
I have it, I
suggestions,
can forward it to
maybe
him.
you can forward it, because that may be something we need to take into account before, if we get to the point where we're gonna at least move past first reading. So thank you so much
You're
for taking the
welcome.
time to do that. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else signed up to testify?
There is no one else signed up to testify on this item.
Okay, great. So we'll move to the discussion piece. So just for context, trustees, obviously this was before the board a few weeks ago, and it did not pass on first reading. Unfortunately, Trustee Ahuna was not here for that vote as well. There were changes that were made, and at least 2 amendments that were put before the board and adopted regarding the proposed second vice chair position, as well as a amendment that Trustee Wahe had pointed out. So we adopted those amendments, and never had an opportunity to incorporate those amendments and look at them. And so that's I'll take that on me in terms of moving the board to adopt, at least on first reading, the proposed amendments without including the changes, and then also not realizing that Trustee Ahuna wasn't or was excused from being here. Oh, okay. Okay. After consulting with our council, our bylaws are not in compliance with current sunshine law. And so the move to adopt a revised set of bylaws is to get us into compliance, along with other, I think, necessary changes that need to be done. Given the board's discussion around the proposed vice chair, second vice chair position, and the back and forth between Chapter 10 and whether or not this board had the ability to amend our bylaws and potentially affect Chapter 10, deciding that we shouldn't do that. After our vote, I asked both Everett and Naivi to take the time to go through our bylaws and see if there were any inconsistencies or any contradicting statements or words in our bylaws that contradicted with Chapter 10 that maybe previous boards had adopted without getting legislative approval. And I just asked them to go through page by page to compare Chapter 10 against our bylaws and identify any inconsistencies that do not exist in Chapter 10, but exist in our bylaws. And should we want to make those changes, we need to go before the legislature to do that, since that was a position that we took on the board in relation to creating the second vice chair position. So what you have in front of you now is and I want to commend Everett, who has put in a lot of time and effort into putting forth before the board a revised and updated set of bylaws that includes the current sunshine law provisions. So our bylaws are in compliance with existing state sunshine law. It is also in compliance with Chapter 10, exactly how it reads. And it also includes additions like the Chair Emerita or Chair Emeritus provision that the board has. It also includes very clear language in the staffing section that clearly articulates that a trustee's staff, which would include an aide or a secretary or a combination of both, is at the clear authority, whatever word we want to use for an individual trustee. And so I made that clear. What is also included is the proposed deputy chief of staff position that I've asked this board the opportunity to have the option to create. I do think it's necessary. In addition to the public filing of the revised bylaws last Friday, I also included and I scoped out what a deputy chief of staff position would look like. So that's included in your minutes or in your materials. I've taken the time to really scope out what this position would do, the minimum requirements that would be needed to serve in this position. And just to be clear, if the board does adopt this, it gives the current chair or a future chair the ability to take one of their authorized 2 positions and repurpose them into a deputy chief of staff position, should one of those individuals meet the current requirements, or put that out through the HR process. I think I've demonstrated in the selection of our board chief of staff that going through the HR process, getting the most highly qualified candidate was very important to me. I think we have a fantastic board chief of staff, and you rest assured, I will treat this deputy chief of staff position the exact same way, going through a competitive hiring process, the HR process, of course, with Pouhana support, and bring before the board to the board suite a deputy chief of staff position that I think will be able to accomplish the many things that I envision our board being able to do in the near future. So that is the bylaws that are in front of us right now. And at this time, I'm happy to open it up for discussion. I know Trustee Lindsay, in the previous board meeting, you asked to go page by page, and I'm happy
Not
to do that.
No.
I do have, I did print both copies, and I'm happy to go by literally page by page if we want to ensure that what is on here is applicable and the board is comfortable with it. So I'll recognize Trustee Lindsay at this time.
Mr. Chair, thank you for being so articulate in explaining to us what you've done. I have only one, actually, I think it's a typographical error on page 6. The clean version, to make it clearer. On page 6, you list vice person in plural, and I'd like to have that S taken off.
Page 6, which line number, if you don't mind?
Officer, under officer?
Oh, under officer.
Yes. The word officer, these are definitions, yeah?
Got it. So officer means the chairperson and vice chairperson without the S.
Yes.
Okay, so Everett's tracking that. Now, what I would envision is, depending on the changes that we have, and even making sure that we've incorporated some of Jermaine's suggested changes, that we're able to move forward. If the board is comfortable, of course, Everett would incorporate all of these changes. We would republish the board bylaws at our next meeting and take it up on second reading or final passage on the 20th of March. And so, just so I'm clear, it's page 6 under officer and to delete the S.
Yes.
Okay. Anything else, Trustee Lindsay?
That's all I have.
Any other, before I hand it to Everett and the changes that Jermaine had talked about, Trustee Souza?
Mr. Chair, I want to clarify, I have it on page 8.
Are you looking at
The red
the,
line.
you're not looking at the clean version,
Oh,
Trustee Souza?
sorry. Hello, Mike.
It's,
Got it.
yeah, so,
No.
Yeah,
Sorry.
yeah.
Yep, got it.
So, Chair, my reservations in our first meeting while discussing the bylaws, I was not in favor of the Deputy Chief of Staff. And, I'm okay with it, but I think that we should consider that the salary not go overboard,
sure.
because this would allow it to, and that was my reservation. So I just want you to take that into consideration without holding you down.
Sure, thank you. And like the chief of staff position, we had worked together with the HR team and Corey
Yep.
to look at the proposed scope and compare that to, other positions. And then Corey basically makes his recommendation. And depending on where the applicant falls, right, depending on their qualifications, their academic qualifications, their years of service, they could fall on the lower edge of the band or on the higher edge of the band. So, if this moves forward, then my intent is for Corey to be able to look at that wage band, because that would be obviously advertised with the position, and to post this on OHA's website on the 21st of March, give a week or two for potential applicants to apply, and then look at screening applicants middle of April, and basically going through the same process, and then hopefully selecting one at the end of April. So that's my plan.
Okay, I just want to share with you that we've gotten so much static in the years in the legislature about being top heavy.
Yeah.
So that's the least I want us to get them coming after us. And that's my only concern, that we not go overboard.
Sure.
Thank you.
Noted, you bet. Everett, do you want to, or are you able to capture some of the real little things that Jermaine had mentioned?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I can speak to those points that were raised by Ms. Myers. In terms of the minutes, I know she
What
noted.
page?
Oh, I'm sorry.
On the clean
Page
version.
27 of the clean version.
Okay. Twenty-seven of the clean
27?
version. Okay.
So with regard to the minutes, although Ms. Myers did point out that there isn't reference to that specific language about being an accurate reflection of the meeting proceedings, that language is still found in the reference statute here, 92.9,
Okay.
relating to the minutes. So of course, this body has
Complied,
to
yeah.
comply with the Sunshine Law, the statutory provisions. So that's implicitly part of the requirements of our meeting minutes. We do call out some of them here as to the actual contents of the minutes, but that's really more for just staff reference, as well as which can also be referenced to the statute. Similarly, we have their specific requirements under 92.9B, which is for the meeting recorded recordings supported by a written summary. Those aren't specified here, but again, they're referenced in the bylaws, referencing the correct statute to have those laid out in full. So we're not just duplicating
Sure.
the HRS sections in our bylaws.
Okay, makes sense.
And then I do recognize the missed revisions to the vice chair, as well as the vice chairpersons, as noted by Trustee Lindsay. Thank you for raising that to our attention. Those were just missed, although I'd say those were incorporated as changes elsewhere, but I apologize for that oversight on my part.
Everett, besides page 6 under officer, where else does that appear? Just so the trustees are well aware.
For instance, on the next
Page 8.
page, on page, well, let me see, within page 10, the following page, there's, reference to the vice chairperson. Again, I believe all of those other instances were caught with
Yeah.
removal of the parentheses S, as well as, again, references to the vice chair as opposed to a vice chair. I again believe those were all caught, but if I'd be
Okay.
willing to stand corrected on that as well, if anybody finds additional errors.
So on page 10, line 4, where it says chairperson and a vice chairperson, it should be chairperson and the vice chairperson. Is that what you're saying?
I'm sorry, on page,
Page 10, line 4, starts with the letter A. And a vice chairperson should say and the vice chairperson. Is that what you're referring to, Jermaine?
oh,
Right.
I'd say in that instance under the article, you're looking at Articles 5 officers. So in that case, it still references a chairperson and a vice chair. So it's parallel, again, suggesting it's a singular individual.
Okay, so no change on that one then.
No. And again, yeah. So I did note, I'm sorry? This one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, so I agree. I agree.
Okay, okay.
So I think you might have been out.
It's
No problem. So
Okay.
I do note that.
Naive also pointed out that the A chairperson is consistent with chapter 10-8.
Yes, and the A vice chairperson as well.
Okay. Okay, Everett, anything else?
Sorry, no, but for the board's reference, again, the action item does summarize the changes that were made, to the bylaws, under the backgrounds, Roman numeral 3 section of the action item. And that, covers, I'd say, the major changes, but I'd be happy to answer any other, questions from the board as to what, is reflected in these proposed revised bylaws.
Thanks, Everett. Yeah, I know it's the board's policy to update its bylaws annually, so I think this is a good opportunity to do that. I'll note that the board did update the bylaws in its October meeting, but that exclusively was to split the two committees of R&M in two, between land and investments and budget and finance, and properly scope that. Nothing else in the bylaws was touched, which is, when I first, my first few days as the board chair, and I met with Everett, this is one of the things he brought to my attention, which triggered making sure we're in compliance with Sunshine Law and Chapter 10. So, the discussion. Trustee Ahuna.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. I also asked, when during this time to incorporate language to align with the executive policy about the trustee aid.
So I think in reference to article, let me see. Article, what is it, 14? So under Article 14, page 34, and then under sub D,
No, I got all that. Sorry.
there is a specific language that actually was added in the prior revision stating that each trustee aide or trustee secretary shall report directly to and be managed by the respective board member.
Okay. I thought it was supposed to be at the end of page 35, but it's okay. I mean, if you add-
Sorry, it carries over to page
okay,
35.
thank you very much. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. No, I got everything here if you guys need to, want me to read the executive policy manual. I just want to align with that.
So, to your point, by adopting, right, to your point, Trustee Ahuna, by adopting these bylaws, that then allows us to go and update the executive policy manual, which is my intent to do next. There are inconsistencies in our executive policy manual, like it still lists the Committee on Resource and Management, the RM committee. So that's coming next. And so what we would adopt here concerning trustee staff, specifically the aides and the secretaries, will be reflected word for word in the executive policy manual. But we got to do this first. You got my word that if we adopt this, we're gonna.
Sorry, I just don't wanna, I wanna avoid confusion. I don't wanna, like, us to have to go back and forth with our administration.
Sure.
Like, I just wanna align with them. I wanna make sure, cause they have it in their executive policy manual. I think maybe we can add that blurb to the section that I talked about.
Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I asking to.
Are you
change
saying that
ours,
there's-
Not theirs.
You just,
Yeah,
you're
it's
saying
already
there's
in there.
language in theirs that needs to be included in ours?
Should be included in ours. That's what I want. Yeah. Opposite of what you're saying. I want to do it for us.
Can you read what that
Sure.
current amendment says?
Sure. Sorry. So, in the exec, so the CEO shall have a general supervision and direction of all other employees of OHA and shall be responsible for the proper performance of their respective duties, with the exception of employees whose duties shall require supervision and direction by the BOT.
Okay.
Yeah, I said that last time. I just wanted to know if we can include that.
I think the wording in this one is clearer than that.
I actually think it's clearer.
Okay, I just like make sure that.
Sure. I think it's clear, but when we do update the executive policy manual, we can address that for consistency, but I think this is actually clearer than that. Sure. Yeah. No, it's a good point. Yeah. Trustee Souza?
Madam Mr. Chair, in regards to item L, proposed change item L of our bylaws, Article 14, which, so I still have the red line version. It would be page
Which page?
41.
What page?
Page 41 of the red line version, so in the new version would be, so Article 14, Board of Trustees staff. I don't currently have a problem with the verbiage, as stated, but I would like to know currently, where does the responsibility, for the board staff, salaries reside? Does it reside on the administration side, or is it kind of a gray area? Maybe, Stacy could help us answer that, if you wouldn't mind, Chair.
Sure. Stacy.
Thank you.
Yes, mahalo, trustee. So by policy, all salaries fall under under the administrator.
Mahalo, Stacy.
I just want to
Thank you, Mr.
say, Chair, the board has the authority to change anything.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yep. Trustees, any other discussion? Everett, did you have something?
No, maybe just the final, the attention for the changes. They are noted in bracketed new, under the, action item, just to call out those specific sections that, were new revisions from what was previously distributed to the board, in February 6th. They also include Trustee Waihe'e's, strike through of the joint, meeting vote.
Do you want me to read those, the action item into the record?
No. It was more just for reference in case the trustees wanted to know those other things that, this has come before them a couple of times and just,
Yeah.
that was our best effort to try to, keep them apprised of what those revisions are, version to version.
I think bringing our bylaws up to, the most current it can be will alleviate future annual updates to the bylaws, for example, next year. This is obviously a big revision because it includes a lot of things that had not been addressed for at least, I don't know when the bylaws were amended prior to the October board meeting, but it includes that, so at least a year and a half. And of course, sunshine law might change again this legislative session, and we have to update it again in the upcoming new year, so. Yep, Trustee Ahuna.
I just have.
No,
one
I
more
see
quick
you, I
question.
see you.
Yeah. Just thinking, so when you say you wanted to get a executive deputy director.
Deputy Chief of Staff.
Deputy, okay, chief of staff. You have two aides.
Correct.
Are you saying to eliminate one of your aides and include that
Yes.
under the same pay scale or?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, no, not pay scale.
That's why I
Yeah.
said what I said.
Oh. Oh, so you like add one more?
No.
No, a deputy chief of staff will probably require a higher salary, and that's not included in our bylaws. But the position is.
The position is and the current salary afforded to that position is. So the 100% of that existing staff salary will be repurposed into a deputy chief of staff position with an addition being included depending on what Corey, when he evaluates the scope of the position, requires.
I don't know if this would be off the charts, but you know, there's a few things missing to help us do a better job at our job, and one of them is Corp Counsel department, and it gives you all the information from past, you know, so when we have new board members coming to the table, they can give us updates, and we don't have to start from the beginning. Could that kind of how can we insert those kind of things so to help us out? Because we don't have a board council, and it's obvious we struggle with past information and what happens in the past, and we're just starting off all brand new again.
Yeah. I mean, to clarify, we do have board counsel. He's sitting right here, but corp counsel. So that would be in the administration's wheelhouse. And we talked about that in our previous meeting about adding to that team, which I'm sure is probably desired. So don't disagree with you on that.
It's a struggle to
Right.
listen to, you know, past and not even have the knowledge of what happened in the past.
Well, I know our administration is aggressively trying to fill positions. We see them pop up all the time, and so I know they're working really hard to do that. And I think I've expressed that. I think one of those areas is in our corp counsel and our legal team.
It's a big help for us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Maybe the deputy could be helping that. Sorry.
Trustees, any other discussion? Feel comfortable moving forward? Okay. Hearing no discussion, the chair would like to call a roll call vote on item number Board of Trustee 2504. This would be the revision to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs Board of Trustee bylaws. Yeah, while they're pulling it up.
Move that. I'll move it, whatever
Okay,
you said.
they're just pulling it up right now.
Yeah.
And it'll address inconsistencies with HRS Chapter 92, the public agency meeting, otherwise known as the Sunshine Law, and their records, as well as inconsistencies with HRS Chapter 10, the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. It'll establish a Chair Emerita and Emeritus succession of a board officer and committee chairperson, approval of committee agendas by the committee chairperson, requirements for meeting presentations and testifiers, revisions to the Board of Trustees staff positions, and miscellaneous revisions for consistency, clarity, statutory compliance, and technical amendments. Again, trustees, this is first reading. And so if it passes, we will include the amendments that we talked about today, Everett. We will republish the red track change and clean version and post it next week for second reading and final passage at our March 20th Board of Trustee meeting, which will be on Thursday. Do we get a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion by Trustee Wahehe to adopt, seconded by Trustee Souza on first reading. Roll call.
Trustee Ahuna,
Kanaloa for now.
Trustee Akaka,
I'm trying to make sure I know what I'm voting about because there's a lot of track changes going on and I'm seeing the proposed action on there. But can we go over thoroughly what is exactly being voted on and what's being edited? So I want to make sure if I have any edits that need to be done, that's considered as well. Can we go in order page by page what's being edited? Is that what's happening?
I'm sorry, Trustee Kaka. Hold on one second. Okay, so Trustee Akaka, we are voting on all the proposed changes that have been redlined, in addition to two changes that Everett will be incorporating.
Can
as
you please
proposed.
put that up on the board or read out what those exact
well-
changes are?
Okay, we'll read it out.
Because there was a lot of back and forth. Thank you.
Let's do the clean version, page number, and the proposed change, and we'll hand it to Everett.
Okay, this would be for the adoption of the revised bylaws as set forth in attachment A to action item BOT 2504. That is the clean version of the proposed revised bylaws with the additional revisions to Article 2 definitions under the definition for officer, removing the parenthetical S this is on page 6.
Page 6 under officer. So it would read, officer means the chairperson and vice chairperson of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs. So Trustee Akaka will be removing the S in the parentheses.
Okay, and then on page 7, under the vice chair or vice chairperson definition, replace the word a with the in the first instance. So as revised, it would state vice chairperson or vice chair or vice chairperson means the vice chairperson of the Board of Trustees of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs.
So those would be the two proposed changes. Trustee Ahuna?
I just want to make sure I'm clear. Is this only the first reading? or-
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Oh, relax, everybody. Okay.
You'd like to change your vote? Okay.
I,
Are we not looking to change the other parts within this that are redlined? Or is it to adopt all the red lines as well? But
Trustee Akaka,
I'm
it is
looking at
all the red lines and
plus
the two-
the additional
and
two.
the two changes we just proposed with Everett. Yes, you're correct.
Thank you.
Continue.
I need another, unless there's not any more discussion, I need another at least half a minute or minute to further review the red line before I vote.
Sure. We'll continue to vote and come back to Trustee Akaka.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alapa,
Yes.
Trustee Galuteria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Souza, Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
Chair Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
I have an edit that I believe might need to be in for consideration in the red line version, page 18, under article under D function, where it says the administrator shall function as a chief executive officer. That doesn't match up with the rest of the edits or red lines made regarding the administrator in this document.
Can you point out the page number, please?
Yes, page 18 in the red line version. Under D function.
Okay. I'm sorry, what is her proposal?
That last part of the sentence where it says, the administrator shall function as the chief executive officer. Because you're removing that definition out of one of the,
Basically, trustee, we want to remove D.
Are you proposing to remove D?
yes.
There's a motion, we're gonna amend the motion or.
Because then it wouldn't match up with the rest of the document here. The red line.
I see your point. And I mean, just for clarity, right? We are adopting it to be consistent with the current statute and law. And so I guess she could amend the amendment, she could propose an amendment.
The motion on the floor, so we would have to. So he would have to amend his motion current, we could do it where he amends his current motion. Somebody said,
Technically, once you start,
yeah, we cannot have a discussion.
But, okay, so.
Mr. Chair, can I just make note for the record? I think.
A quick recess, sorry.
I have a point of, okay. I do have a point of order. Wait. Once you take the vote, the debate has been closed. Um,
Okay, reconvening. I know we have a vote. I have one point of clarification for Everett, just for trustee Akaka. So we're gonna continue to vote and finish this because that's what's in front of the board. But to answer her question, would she have the ability to make an amendment on the bylaws for final passage next week? Or we're voting on this, and so there is not an opportunity to amend?
I welcome the opinion of board counsel, but I think it also would require it would need to go back to first reading.
Okay. So trustee Akaka, I note your pointing out on page 18 of the track change version, item number D, but we have a vote before the board. And so to be consistent with Robert's rules,
Yes.
we need to move forward.
Okay. Well, I have at least one or two more edits that I would be recommending too. I didn't know that we were going straight to a vote. I thought we were still in discussion.
Yeah, at this time we are voting. And so trustee Akaka, your vote, please.
Okay, so just to make sure I know what this vote is about, it's regarding those two revisions and the red line. So therefore, if this is the first reading, it would make sense for me to vote aole because I believe that there should be additional edits.
Thank you. You can
That
vote.
would be correct.
That's correct.
Aole, mahalo.
You have 8 yes votes, 1.
Okay, thank you. Trustees, we are now moving.
So how would this work going forward? How would this work going forward then with the first reading to the second reading? We wouldn't be able to make additional edits? Would we have to vote down these bylaws for the second reading to then start the process again?
I'll let Everett answer that, and then we're going to move on.
In my opinion, Chair, the revision that would be made would have to start from go back to the first reading. So it would have to be adopted by 2 readings again. It cannot be made at the second reading. If I could also just quickly address the executive officer language, it's also reflective of the constitutional language, section 6, that states the board shall have the power to exercise control over the Office of Hawaiian Affairs through its executive officer, the administrator of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, who should be appointed by the board. So I see that more as a functional description as opposed to titling, as it had previously, referred to the chief executive officer.
Yep.
Okay, and with the other edits that I believe I have recommendations on, I think should be made, is that something that can be done now, or is this a discussion moving on to another subject? Is that something that can be discussed at a later meeting or at this current time?
The motion's already carried, so if there's any issues that you may have, you can attempt to move at second reading. Trustee.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess trustee Akaka, you can, I guess express your proposed amendments to Everett, since he is working on the current document, and it would be possible for you to bring it in front of the board at the final reading. But should the board decide to adopt that, we would basically reset another board meeting, and maybe your suggestions are warranted, so happy to hear them. Unfortunately, it just came a little bit too late. We should have voted on it when we were doing discussion.
Right,
Trustee-
I didn't know that discussion had ended.
Trustee Aquino?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just going back to what Everett interjected a few moments ago, I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. With regard to Article 7 Administrator and the removal in the first line of its Chief Executive Officer, were you stating that this section is merely addressing the function, but not changing the title?
Hey, I'm gonna table discussion on this because this is done, this agenda item. We can take that as up offline. I'm gonna move on to the Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment. Lehua, do we have anyone signed up to speak on?
Yes,
Looks
we have,
like, yeah,
we do have one person signed up. We have Jermaine Myers.
yeah. And we have two matrices, trustees, matrix 5 and matrix number 6, and I'll be handing it over to trustee, our Chair Galutario for that. Welcome, Jermaine.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I'm looking forward to Pouhana's reports. I didn't see anything in the packet, so my testimony is based on the descriptions. I cannot emphasize enough how important an employee handbook is to this organization.
Jermaine, we're not talking about, we're talking
Pouhana,
about
right?
matrix 5 right now.
BAE. Oh, he was skip. Oh, I thought I heard her say admin. Pouhana.
Did I
Okay,
say admin?
no.
Oh.
And because she called me because I was on admin, not BAE.
Oh, okay.
No, yeah.
Anything on matrix 5? Matrix 6? Okay, I'm gonna hand over to trustee, the Chair Galutario for, matrix 5.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Your Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment, having met on March 5th, 2025, and after full and free discussion, recommends approval of the following motions to the Board of Trustees. To approve of the staff's recommendations for positions on bills affecting Native Hawaiian housing as reflected in Matrix 5.
Second.
Discussion, members? Okay, roll call vote for the adoption of matrix number 5.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Aye.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
And Chair Kahele.
Yeah.
You have 9 yes votes.
Well, Mr. Chair, I move for the approval of the staff's recommendations for positions on bills affecting Native Hawaiian health as reflected in Matrix 6.
And just for the record, we don't have anyone signed up to speak on matrix 6? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion, trustees? Hearing none, roll call vote.
Trustee Ahuna.
Aye.
Trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa.
Yes.
Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Trustee Souza. Trustee Waihe'e.
Yes.
And Chair Kahele.
Aye.
You have 9 yes votes.
Okay, thank you, trustees, and mahalo to our BAE committee. We have one more? We do. Okay. I must be missing them then. Go ahead.
The burial site.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve the addition of a resolution to the OHA 2025 legislative package, establishing a working group to examine and consider the transfer or partial transfer of Native Hawaiian burial site duties under Hawaii Revised Statute Chapter 6E from the Department of Land and Natural Resources State Historical Preservation Division to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs as set forth in attachment A to action item BAE 25-04 with the revisions attached.
Second.
Discussion? Roll call?
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Alaka,
Yes.
Trustee Galuteria,
Right?
Trustee Lindsay, Trustee Souza,
Aye.
Trustee Waihe'e,
Yes.
and Chair Kahele.
Lehua, before I vote, did we have anyone sign up to speak on this item?
On the working group?
The reso,
On
the
the
proposed reso.
No.
Okay, chair votes aye.
Chair. I'm sorry, but I did not attend this particular meeting. And I wondered why the whole agenda was not discussed at the meeting, the matrix 1, 2, and 3, 4. Chair?
Sure.
Well, let's finish the vote.
Okay. Your vote, and you voted yes?
Aye, yeah.
Okay, we have 9 yes votes.
Okay. Now you can answer the question.
Very briefly, there was no movement on some of the other bills that were in the other matrices. So instead of going through one by one, there was no difference. So it was basically the same bills that hadn't been amended or moved, or some died. Specifically, we could ask Lena Alla to come up and explain it, but that's why it was deferred.
And I'll also add, last week, Friday was first lateral. This is crossover. So this week is a big week at the ledge. And so we intend for their next standing committee and Board of Trustee meeting to have all 8 matrices up, because we're going to have a whole new fresh update of what's still alive and what the status of those bills are after crossover. So since we did it the last time, there wasn't much changes. What was in front of the board on this 5 and 6 was where the significant changes were. So just in the interest of time.
Well, I was very concerned about how OHA responded to the PLT bill, and that's what I wanted a report on. And you and Lay were there, right?
Yes, they didn't even ask. Yeah.
They did ask you guys
Um,
if we would consider a global settlement.
on a bill.
So
Yeah, that was part of the concern that a beneficiary had testified on yesterday, I believe, Jareen did, in terms of OHA's response, saying that we're open to how the wording was in terms of what that would mean. And basically, the concern is that, are we looking at a?
But this is not in this discussion right now. What I will say is that, Allah, we have crossover coming up this week. We'll get a new fresh update of all 8 matrices for all the trustees. We'll post them as soon as possible. And we will have a robust discussion of that in the BAE committee on March 19th and on the board meeting on the 20th.
Yeah, Chair,
Okay.
I think we all agree that in the political process, we start all over again.
Right.
With a whole new playbook. So that's what we're going to be doing next time.
Okay, thank you, trustees. Our next agenda item is going to be the status of OHA activities. And so, Lehua, please invite Jermaine to join us. And besides Jermaine, is there anyone signed up to speak on this item? Okay, Jermaine. Aloha.
Your mic.
Thank you. Aloha, Chair and Vice Chair and Trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I'm looking forward to the Pouhana's report. I didn't see anything in the packet, so my testimony is based on the descriptions. I cannot emphasize enough how important an employee handbook is to this organization. May I suggest when you complete it that you issue it to the employees in both paper form and digital. The digital copy should be on the employee's computer at work so that they can reference it when needed, but a printed copy should be provided to everyone to take home with them so they can access it at home to recall the employee policies and procedures when they are on sick leave. And sometimes they have no access to the internet or their work computer. The handbook of course, we'll remind them how much time they have to get in contact with their manager when they initially are out on sick and before OHA will determine that they've abandoned their job. These kind of stuff comes up in HR. And when they don't have the handbook at home, they tend to call HR and bog them down with questions about policies. But also, the this will help HR to get less calls, but also in the event HR needs to send a letter to the employee referencing the handbook procedures that an employee may have inadvertently violated. When HR references the handbook policy, the employee can verify the policy in their printed copy at home and therefore can have peace of mind. Please be aware that the Hawaii Department of Labor have classes they offer to employers that HR and managers can attend to keep themselves informed and updated about state and federal labor laws. They have a training center near the airport. The Department of Labor wants to see employers succeed in compliance, and they are a great ally and should never be feared. I only bring these things up because of the 2 executive session agenda items that I saw related to HR issues. In regards to OHA strategic plan, I personally feel it's got too much goals. Right? That's just my personal opinion. When got too much goals, we spread ourselves thin and everything, although important, seems urgent. Best to be great at some things than average at many things. Kia kuapu, God bless all of you.
Thank you, Jermaine. Okay, Kapuana.
Mahalo, Chair, Vice Chair, Trustees. Thank you for this time. I find it very valuable that you've allocated time to the administration to provide our updates. And so we appreciate you folks and mahalo you in advance. The first agenda item that I'm going to be speaking on is our employee handbook and providing you a status and a timeline. So when we last met, I had promised this body that we would get a first draft by in 2 weeks. I've had to revise that timeline, which you have in front of you. Unfortunately, over the last 2 weeks, we've had some internal emergencies that HR and our COO have had to address and has not allowed them to be able to have a full review of the draft 1. And then there are specific parts of draft 1 that I need the HR director and COO to be able to actually revise that language. So if I may, I'm elongated the timeline. So we now have that draft 1 due by 3/17. Please know that the ELT has done, again, except for our COO and HR director, the ELT has reviewed and made their revisions. We've also had a representative from the Hawaii Employment Council has also done a review of the handbook of draft 1. We will, after we do our first draft 1, we will look at all revisions provided and we will create a draft 2. That draft will then go to outside legal review. It will go to an attorney who has an HR specialty that will provide a review for us. And by April 10th, we will incorporate any changes from that outside legal review. And then it will go to communications. So we will be looking for formatting and new designs for the cover of the handbook, as well as images and pictures that will be incorporated into the handbook. And then we will get the almost final handbook to the trustees for your folks' review and comment. And so that will come on April 21st. And there will be a week provided to trustees to review it and provide us any additional comments or revisions required. And then your BOT feedback will be incorporated by April 30th. A final handbook will be completed by June 1st. And we will conduct our review and training of the handbook with supervisors first. And then we will follow up with review and training of the handbook with our teams. And then we will be disseminating the handbook as a print version, and it will be on our intranet, accessible to to all employees. And then within the handbook, there will be an employee acknowledgement form. It exists now, but one has been refreshed, and all new and existing employees will sign and submit that once they have had their training and review session with HR and their supervisors. I also want to make a note, just as this body has been reviewing the bylaws and we'll be looking at the executive policy manuals, that this is I think, a effort across the board for all of our governing documents. So I appreciate Chair's emphasis in making sure that there is alignment, and Trustee Ahuna, making sure that all of our documents across the board, even in our handbook, align to whatever the executive policy and our bylaws say. So mahalo for that. I think that coherence is absolutely required and should be expected. I also want to note that just as you folks have talked about the bylaws, these are point in times, and that I will also be requiring a regular review and updating annually of our handbook. And that will be in the months of May, June, so that we will always have a refreshed handbook for the start of the new fiscal year. Any questions?
I guess my only question, and you probably already answered it, but just so the trustees are clear, it looks like mid-April, yeah?
For trustee
Well,
review.
It looks like the third week of April, we'll have a chance to review and provide whatever input we would like to see in the employee handbook, so.
And why that's important for your folks' review is because you're supervisors as well, right? So this handbook is basically going to have to be your guidebook too as supervisors.
Great. Feedback incorporated. Give me 1 second.
Mhm.
Okay. I think, yeah, that should be ample time. So we get it on the 21st, which is a Monday,
Mhm.
and then the 30th is a Wednesday. I know number of trustees will be headed to Moko Kiawe for our Merry Monarch time at the end of that week. So, but
And this is we can be fluid. So
Okay.
if we need extra time, I just need to know and
Sure,
we'll adjust the
yeah.
timeline.
we appreciate it.
Yeah, mahalo. And that might be required for our other PAIA too. Again, unforeseen circumstances occur and sometimes we need to adjust like we did for the first draft review.
Okay.
Mahalo.
Trustees, any other comments or discussions concerning the employee handbook refresh? I'd also like to mahalo Corey and his HR team. I know there's a lot on your guys' plate right now. So thank you for your time and effort in this. I think it's like all the governing documents we have, this is very important because as a brand new employee to OHA, this is the first impression that you receive is the employee handbook. So I think this is a good thing.
Mahalo, Chair.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item of your update.
So at this time, I'd like to call up Ramona Hink, our CFO. She's going to provide trustees with a status update of our 2024 financial audit report.
Laura Ramona.
Good afternoon, Chair Kahele, Vice Chair Souza, and trustees and colleagues. The document before you is the fiscal 2024 OHA financial statements and single audit status report, and it was submitted for your review. It provides the objectives of the audit process, and the timeline. So would you want to take a few minutes to look at that, and then I can answer any questions that you might have?
I think Ramona will also add for the trustees that this particular audit that needs to be filed with the National Clearinghouse by March 31st.
Yes,
Right?
that's
And
correct.
so this board will need to adopt those audit recommendations by its March 20th meeting.
Either the March 20th or we're requesting an additional week if you need to review it. So a special meeting on March 27th.
How is, I know you guys are also juggling our upcoming biennium budget. How is your timeline in producing the final product for us by, and will this go in front of the BNF committee on the 19th or
Yes.
just, it will? So it'll be BNF and then Board of Trustees on the 20th.
Yes.
So typically trustees, I'd like to give us a little bit more time to review things rather than seeing it the day prior and voting on it the next day. But in this particular case, it is due by the end of the month. And so depending on if we have questions about it, we may need to come back in the following week to adopt it, or if we feel comfortable adopting it. When do you think it'll be, Ramona, when do you think it will be published for our trustees to be able to review? The more time we have to review it, the better.
Next week, Friday, we'll submit the action item.
With
Or
with the
sooner.
full report, with the material?
Yes,
Okay.
both audits for OHA and for the single audit, the federal grant audit.
Okay. So trustees, we can expect it on the 14th, and it will be agendized for the Wednesday 19th meeting. And so, you know, if we need more time to come back in and schedule a special board meeting for adoption the week of March 28th, then we can do that, unless we feel comfortable moving it on the 20th. Does anyone have any discussion on both audits and that report? Do we have any other audits or any other reports due throughout the course of the year that are similar to this?
No, we do
None.
not,
Okay.
unless there's a state audit.
Does this happen every year?
Yes,
Both of them, every
Yes.
year? So maybe for next year, if we have the required materials, we can move it to the left a little bit so we can,
yes,
depending on your workload, we can have it in front of the board sooner so we can have that extra week and a half buffer.
right. So the timeline kind of explains what happened on this audit.
Yeah.
So I don't need to go through it because you can read it. But we basically took a 4-month audit. So it normally takes 4 months.
Okay.
And we skinnied it down to 9 weeks because we had to.
Okay. Questions? None? Okay, if you have questions, you can always, I'm sure, reach out to Ramona directly. And we'll expect the full report for the review by next Friday.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mahalo, Chair. At this time, I'd like to call up Kehau Pu'u, our COO, to provide an update on performance management, and also our HR Director, Corey.
Aloha and kahuwaiwai. Ke Haupu'u here. Just I want to provide an update. I think it's in your packet from CEO. And this would be our interim process for performance management for the remainder of this fiscal year. So I'll just recap that we are currently working on a new performance management system. We have a platform called Quantum that will be integrating, also really trying to be intentional about our approach to performance management coming from cultural approaches. But that is for fiscal year 2025. So for the Kalamai fiscal year 2026. So for the remainder of fiscal year 2025, we have put an interim process in place. It combines elements of, our past process, fiscal year 2023's performance evaluation form, some elements of what we're proposing for our new performance management system, and just some good ike and feedback we got from our team, our CEO, HR, and also our chair. So the first page, it looks like this one. It just it's just a timeline. I am a fan of visuals, so you can see what the timeline looks like in a cycle. It just includes our introduction. Again, we really want to put behind our beliefs. We really want to create a process that exemplifies what we believe about performance management. I'm gonna just. Oh, that's it. Okay. So, yeah, our system really is about supporting staff, accountability and support. So anyways, our objectives is to provide a transparent and fair process for performance evaluation, align individual performance goals with organizational goals, identify and address performance gaps, and I should say areas for growth, and then foster a culture of continuous improvement and development. So our timeline, we're 1 day behind, but we will distribute our performance evaluation form today. It'll come from HR and it'll go out to everybody. Because yeah, performance evaluation will be managed on both sides of our Ohana, our Hale. And we just give a timeline for deadlines throughout the remainder of the fiscal year. So we'll do a Q3 review by the end of the month. And then we'll require monthly one-to-one meetings, right? Because this is, again, opportunity for coaching and feedback. And then we have our end of year performance evaluation, which will go right into August, which is when we plan to kick off training for our new performance management system. So on page 3 or page 1 is the actual form that we'll be using. It includes elements of reflection. So there is a section for employees and they would complete first, right? So reflection, self-assessment. You know, we ask some questions around our values because we believe that our values should define what our expectations are around Lavena or, you know, our behavior, professional behavior and expectations here at OHA. And then there is a section for employees to comment on their own performance, job performance. And then the last section of the evaluation form is to be completed by the manager. And this is, again, their summary and assessment of the employee. And that's what we have for the remainder of the fiscal year. Any questions?
Members, any questions? If,
Yeah.
Trustee Galutario.
No, thank you that's the process. We touched earlier on if there's any type of inquiry about one's background in unethical behavior with regard to ongoing litigation or bringing litigation against the organization. Is there any type of inquiry in that matter? The history of the applicant, the history of, no? Is it appropriate to ask those questions?
You mean during the performance review period? Or
Well, whether it's performance review or even before that, or
well,
background checks, I guess, yes.
yeah, so before anyone is actually hired and brought on board, we do conduct reference checks. And so that would be one of the ways in which we would look into an individual's past performance. That in and of itself doesn't necessarily guarantee that we'll find out that type of information, but there also are laws with regard to what can be considered during that recruitment process.
As you proceed with this performance evaluation, would you be able to uncover unseemly type of, or I'm just trying to, we want to ensure that our performance or our employees are of the highest standard, right?
Yes, so currently we don't conduct criminal background checks as part of our review process or our hiring process. So I would say no, unless it actually involves some kind of issue that involves, OHA itself.
Oh, I see. Okay, so you'd consider this an inappropriate type of,
Yeah.
What is that, trustee?
Trustee Lindsay, can you turn on your mic? Sorry, if you have a comment. Mahalo.
Is it discrimination? I'll have a private discussion on this matter.
Mahalo.
Okay.
Thank you, Corey. Pouhana, you had a comment or question?
I was just going to say that, many times when we can ask an employer, a prospective employee, applicant, employer questions, but it's really up to the policy of the individual or agency, organization, or company to divulge whatever they're willing to. Most companies have a policy that will just give you their verify, have they been employed with us, and what are their dates of employment.
Yeah, and that's, generally because they don't want to be necessarily sued for libel or, but Trustee Emeritus Lindsay, to your question, so convictions, actually, there are protections prior to making an offer. There are rules regarding what you can ask and what you can use in regards to considering, information before extending or after extending a offer of employment. Yes, so there are rules regarding that. Correct. And again, we do try to conduct those reference checks and and that's why we try to follow the process, right? And not bypass any of those steps, because we do want to make sure that we are, to the extent possible, hiring, right, the best individuals.
Members, if there are no other questions, we're going to move on to item number 4 under B, new business, and Kapuana's administrative update. Mana Imauli Ola.
Mahalo. At this time, Vice Chair, I'd like to invite up our Senior Director of Strategy and Implementation, Elena Farden, to provide an update on the Mana'i Mauliola targets and indicator work. And then once she concludes her report, we're going to have a few updates on programmatic OHA programs that have launched, and we wanted to provide updates to the trustees as it relates to our Mana'i Mauliola efforts.
Aloha, Elena.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, and trustees. So one key message as you're pulling up your Mana'i Mauliola provisional update that I just want to make clear is that it is a very bold baseline and target to bold action. Baseline in understanding where we're starting from and making sure we're meeting the Hawaiian community where they're at, and targets as our collective aspirations in all of the 4 strategic directions. This is folded into an alignment for impact and ensuring that there's reasonable resources as we continue to implement our Mana'i Mauliola update. So with that, if there's any questions with the key message on why you're receiving this, I can go into the structure and mechanics of the matrix so that you can navigate it with ease and relate it to your work.
This is the first Thursday.
Okay. Sure. So within Mana'i Mauliola provisional update, the matrix that you have in front of you are 3 key things. The first is a strategic outcome. So there are 26 total across all 4 strategic directions. Each strategic outcome has a specific baseline data. The baseline data that you see in the middle column, this gives us our starting point on where we're going to begin. So I relate it to Hokule'a that we're celebrating 50 years at. If their starting point is Kualoa here in Hawaii, that is the baseline. The third column that you see is our target by 2035. This is where we're heading. In that same metaphor, that is Tahiti for Hokule'a on where they want to be by that time. So each strategic outcome has a baseline that's tied to it, where we're starting from, what's our measure, and then our target by 2035, where we want to reach. With that, it's broken up by each strategic direction. So page 1 starts with educational pathways. And again, the 6 strategic outcomes that are there are listed, as well as each of the baseline data that we're using and the targets by 2035. For health outcomes, that begins on page 3. For quality housing and direction, that will begin on page 5. And then our last strategic direction for economic resiliency, that begins on page 7. For each of the 4 strategic directions, there will be anywhere between 6 to 7 strategic outcomes. These are ambitious for sure, but definitely achievable. And we know that just from our ali'i, but also our inept navigators, even through the storms and doldrums, they still find the way to pull up the island. So part of strategy is understanding where we're going to start, where we're headed, and what is the clear pathway to do that. So with that and being able to navigate the matrix, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Trustee Lindsay.
Elena?
Yes.
I'm just curious, at what point does the trustee sees anything that comes out of the strategy paya?
That is a great question. We thought this would be a good start for us to say, here is a strategic outcome that has been approved within the plan. Here's where we're starting with our baseline data, and here's our target. Our next step with this is to also share with the trustees what are our programs and our initiatives to make sure we're hitting our target by 2035. Within those programs and initiatives will be specific tactics. What are the contracts or MOUs or partnerships that need to have that happen? And with those tactics will come actions. What are the small daily steps that need to happen in order for us to reach that? So those will be coming, but we wanted to make sure there was a foundation of what we're building upon with the plan first.
So do you think that, let's say in 1 year, we'll have 1/10 of the plan visible?
Actually, we're making very good progress and headway. We already have 6, I'm doing math in my head in real time, which is very difficult, but 12 initial proposed programs for each of all 4 strategic directions moving forward. That was put forward in our budget bill. So we'll have something very substantial to share with the trustees soon. And I'll look, for the budget.
Okay, thank you.
Excuse me, when you had said page
Trustee
7,
Akapa.
can you show what page 7 you're talking about? Because I'm looking through the packet and I'm trying to identify.
Trustee, so Lehua
Yes.
sent you an email with this particular document.
Thank you.
I have a question, Elena. So we, from what I heard today, so at least we understand the process and I guess the approach, how you guys are going to be measuring. I know we're coming up on year number 4 of the strategic plan, right? So definitely should be under review, right? Every 3 years or whatever the thing was going to be. I know I did ask for a certain area which I'm passionate about, which is the housing, and I did receive a draft from Pouhana. So I know it's being worked on, and I know the outcomes are being measured. When do we foresee the opportunity for the board to be able to have the discussion and potentially amend? It was also brought to our attention today by Jermaine. I want to point out that, maybe we're being overambitious or ambitious in a certain point, or maybe not, but actually bringing it to the board and maybe having us decide, or giving the report and saying, hey, this is what we're meeting, especially with the housing or certain things that certain trustees want to know. So I was just asking, what is the timeline on that?
Well, I wanted to just follow up on some of the comments that you just made. So this Mana'i Mauli'ola was approved by the board, right? So all of the outcomes, the 26 outcomes, the board felt that these are the things that the Office of Hawaiian Affairs should be working on in those 4 strategic directions. Correct. And so strategy and implementation is basically taking what the board has put forth as the plan, and it's now their job to execute. I think it's really important to note that the tactics that are being put together under the various programs that Elena and her team are working on is that there are many of these strategic outcomes that overlap, because some of these things you cannot do in isolation, right? So if you are, for instance, if you are creating a tactic for a health outcome, most times you're also going to be having an overlap either with education, an education outcome, or there may be a economic resilience outcome. So I think that the best or the most optimal tactics that these teams put together is ones where we can affect multiple outcomes with one singular effort, right? And so they're very mindful when they're putting tactics together. Do you want to talk a little bit about the timeline?
Couple in response to your question. So the reason why I asked, because me personally, I wasn't here. I don't know, Trustee Galataire wasn't as well. So it was Trustee Kahele and some of our,
And us.
including you, including you and Naive, our board counsel, and our new chief of staff. And so, what I'm basically saying is that we haven't had an opportunity since I've been here. So I was not part of that initial conversation with the creating the strategic plan. And so, being that it is year number 4, I would like to have an opportunity to weigh in, basically. And it's not so much changing the headline of or the title of each category or anything like that. Just what falls under it.
Sure.
And seeing those measurements so that we know how to potentially contribute to that conversation and saying, hey, maybe we should try this approach, adapt this way. Maybe, things are changing, especially on the federal level. How does that affect housing? So that's the conversation I want to be a part of. And I hope that we can agendize that. Yeah.
So to address that, well, before I speak to that, I just want to let you know, one of the big hukas that we see in the current plan is there's nothing that speaks to EA. Although, under the health outcome, it calls it out as a heading, but there's no detailed strategic outcome that actually effectuates that. So Chair Galataire and I had a recent conversation about similarly how with the ILM committee, we are able to we have the real estate committee, which is pre-ILM. We want to do a MIMO meeting that would be pre-BAE. So we're going to create that structure so that there is that BAE input as our S&I group is putting together the tactics. And then that will be the precursor to bringing it to BAE for full board discussion. Does that work for you?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
perfect.
And I know especially that AR component, Trustee Galataire is a big advocate for that. So I'm looking
We
forward
are
to seeing
too.
that.
Yeah, we would appreciate that.
Trustee Aquino, mahalo kapuana.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for your comments and your inquiry. Well, Elena and Pouhana, congratulations. I'm excited with what I see here. We gave you some basic strategic outcomes. I was privileged to be here on the board when we worked on those. One of those strategic outcomes was get more Native Hawaiians owning homes. What you've given us is a baseline telling us that 62.9% of Native Hawaiians owned homes last year. And you've given us a target by 2035 saying that we will make it happen that 82.4% of Native Hawaiians will own homes. Just to have that clear picture, it answers the question, what is OHA doing? And having those pictures for each and every one of the categories that we're identifying in Mana i Maoli Ola, it's very comprehensive. And what's going to be even more exciting is as you show the graph of our moving forward from one percentage to the next percentage, we can have parties, we can cheer, we can actually chart what OHA is doing. We've never had this before. And one of the things that this answers is where's our money going? And where should we put more money? Where should we stop putting money? So this is going to factor into the budget. If we are faithful in fleshing this out, revising it as well, and working it through, it will revolutionize the impact of OHA. Good job.
Mahalo, Trustee Aquino. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Oh.
Elena, sorry.
I just wanted to go back to your other question about where does the opportunity lie for the Board of Trustees to weigh in, or if there's other additional data. So within the team itself, we built in short-term, medium-term, long-term outcomes. Within the short-term and medium-term phases, we do have summative and formative assessments. Formative meaning after every short-term or every so often cadence, we'll double check and evaluate where are we? Do we need to pivot? If so, what's the data available to allow us to do that? What expertise is needed? At those critical times, we would welcome, obviously, input from community as well as a board, but those mechanisms are built in within the short-term and medium-term outcomes.
Very good.
Mahalo. Thank you, Elena. Yep.
But before
Trustee Galataire.
Yeah, this is a little bit out of the box, but not really. Is there going to be a pathway towards in the area of air?
I'm
go
happy
ahead.
to answer.
Okay.
We're both racing to answer.
Pardon me?
So we're both racing to
both
answer.
jumped on.
Yeah.
I was specific to the development because these are all societal pieces right here. It's great. Is there something that aims us towards a reorganized Native Hawaiian governing entity?
So I can speak to that first in looking at Mana'i Mauliola as a strategic plan. With that, and knowing that AI is infused within it, I personally, and this is still something that we're talking through as a team, see Mana'i Mauliola as a plan to create the conditions in which AI thrives. So AI, as we know it in this contemporary context, may obviously be translated as sovereignty or self-determination. But the beautiful thing about our language is that there's so many different meanings. Air as life, air as breathing, air as practice. And the way we see air in wayfinding, for example, was being able to regain that knowledge, then be able to practice that knowledge, and then now be able to say we want 10 million navigators. That practice itself is air. What does air look like in practice? That's Waipa Foundation, that's Paipai Oheia, that's Julio Mauliola, that's Ho'olu, Aina, all of these, Proteka Ho'olave, all of these entities that allow conditions for air to thrive so that the Lahui can make the decision on how they want to educate their children, the way that we want to build our communities, how we do restorative justice so that families can stay together and have accountability. All of those things in Mana'i Mauliola does not say air, but we want to create the conditions for air to thrive. So that's how I look at it.
Well, thank you for that, mahalo. I appreciate that, and I agree with it. And furthermore, I think that air will survive. The way I kind of look at it as we should be, in essence, controlling the current governance model that we have as we try and create a governance model that we're actually going to be sitting across the table with doing business. And so I'm hoping that your metaphor of the va'a is great. I mean, because you really got to be on your feet in order to sail these canoes. But just for your consideration, yeah, I submit that for your consideration, that there's the current model of governance and a reorganized native governance model.
Pouhana.
Mahalo, Vice Chair. And I just wanted to give a couple other examples because I absolutely agree with Elena that through our tactical work in each of these strategic areas, we are setting the conditions of IA to live. But there are also going to be tactics that will be developed that will come in front of the board because they're going to be resources are going to be required. So that will come forth in our budget request to you folks. So you'll see it then. But there are going to be tactics that are going to look at systems or infrastructure, things that we need to start working on now, that if and when we are ever to accomplish self-governance, these key pieces need to be put into place. So they happen in parallel, right? So, and again, I don't want to talk about a tactic because you folks haven't had the chance to review them yet. So I'm going to reserve not going into detail. But one other example that's currently in play. So if I could create a line of sight for you on how Mana'i Mauliola is already being activated. So under our health outcomes, iwi kupuna, the care of iwi kupuna is one of our outcomes. And we have legislation, right, that went in our admin package to change the composition of the island burial councils, right, to take off the large landowners and developers so that our cultural practitioners and our lineal descendants would have total control over decision-making or over our kupuna, our iwi kupuna. And to me, that is ea, right? That is our assertion and of being able to have control and decision-making over our iwi kupuna. That is a direct alignment. Our bill pushing for that is in direct alignment to us achieving under that health outcome, malama of iwi kupuna. Right? And so we'll be able to demonstrate and create those lines of sight on how Mana'i Mauliola is being effectuated in our work. So, you know, when Trustee Lindsay is asking, well, when will we see it? We are already seeing it. I think where we can do a better job is creating those lines of sight where it's already happening through the current work.
Mahalo. Can I?
Trustee Akapa.
Mahalo. with what you folks are saying, it is resonating with me. I appreciate the directions and the focus that we're going with this, and even the mention regarding navigating Kaho'olawe and so forth. That was something I was trying to touch on yesterday with the questions that I had with Kirk regarding my next question I was trying to ask was regarding DLNR, what the line item is, what the amount is, because if that is if Kaho'olawe is a place that we are looking to have conveyed over to the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, what does that look like in terms of our stewarding these lands and so forth. So I just want to thank you folks for all your hard work on this, and I'm looking forward to seeing how this will come forward and come to be, and how our meetings will be structured in a way that it further explains and how we can have more working hand in hand on these things. Mahalo.
Mahalo, trustee.
Mahalo, trustees. I just wanted to make one quick mention too. For the baseline and target data, this was really the work of our research and evaluation division. So just want to make sure that we give credit where credit's due and the work that they're doing with us. So thank you.
At this time, I wanted to ask if we could bring up Poni Askew, our Director of Economic Resilience. So again, this is a great example of Mana'i Mauliola in practice, and she's going to provide you folks with an AHO update. That's this one right here.
About all my papers, just in case there's lots of questions. So I wanted to start, if you all have the AHO update sheet in front of you. This one? Yep, this one. This one. Trustee Akaka, do you have a copy of this? Okay.
Yes, thank you.
So I wanted to just kind of start with this quote that came in yesterday from a beneficiary who's an AHO applicant. That was really an inspiring and validating quote to why AHO exists. And they said, "We are humbled and thankful for this opportunity to begin our journey to home ownership in Hawaii. Events were set in motion in January that requires us to leave the place we have been in for the last 13 years, not by our choice. By next summer, so finding your program is such a blessing and gives us much needed hope that we will be able to continue to raise our keiki here." Which the timing of that was just, I think, very poignant in being able to deliver a message back to you on the impact we're already seeing from the AHO program that you folks approved. So to date, we've had over 138 forms completed. And what that means is that we're receiving phone calls. Let me go back to the other page. In the first 48 hours, we actually received 157 inquiries for AHO. And with that being said, in the first 2 weeks, we have taken in 138 inquiries. So these are people who are actively seeking the AHO loan opportunity. Through that process, those who are now eligible for referral to ASB has equated to 19. And what that means is that they have to become HRP. They have to get their HRP card. And so that's just a process that Ilima and Star and their whole team is working diligently on. And then with that, we have already sent 10 applicants to ASB for the pre-qualification process. So you can kind of see the cadence of what's taken place. I wanted to include, in the intake form, I did ask the question, first and foremost, where do you think you want to buy a home? And the responses may be, aligned with how many people live on each island, but I still thought it was really important to show that of the inquiries, 88 folks are looking to live on Oahu, 23 on Hawaii Island, Maui 19. So those were our top 3 responses. Another key piece of information I am asking on these intake forms is of the folks that are living with you. So if you get the loan and you buy your house, of the folks that will be living there, how many of them are Native Hawaiians? So if we were to distribute loans to every inquiry that we've gotten and they all successfully received a loan, we would be looking at housing 479 Native Hawaiians within the 138 that have inquired so far. So I think that's really impactful knowing that we're only in week 2 of this program. And then finally, on the bottom, I wanted to show the media to date and the inquiries that have come through. We've had over 7,202 web clicks that have come through interested in the AHO program. Now, mind you, with that being said, we had KGMB cover us the day after the press release went out. And then the other Kauai News, Oahu News, Maui News, Hawaii News Now, Big Island News were all digital news pieces. So I would say overall, the media response, what we did get, in my opinion, is minimal, but it actually still got a very large response when we posted that on Friday, the day after the press release went out. There's been 418 views to our Facebook and 19,037 views on our Instagram, the post about AHO. So it's really exciting to see the response. The BSAs have been busy answering the phone, and I want to mahalo again Ilima and her team because they have been at the forefront connecting with the beneficiaries and bringing them through to filling out the AHO form. So I really appreciate them for that.
I also want to thank Bill Brennan and the communications team who helped us to launch AHO. And he'll be working very closely with Pony on continuing to push out communications regarding the AHO program because we want to make sure that we max out the amount of money that was provided for this program. And, you know, hopefully come back to this board and show the critical mass of those who are needing this program. And if so, if this body so chooses, then we could look at future funding opportunities.
Mahalo, Pony. Members, any questions? Seeing none, mahalo ka Pouhana for your update. Is there,
We have two more.
Two more.
Yeah, really quickly.
Yeah.
I'm going to call Kehao up to talk about the Kanaho updates.
Okay, sure.
Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Aloha, we're almost Okay, so Kanaho updates. I just wanted to provide the board with some stats on where we landed. Our Kanaho program closed on December 31st, 2024. We awarded about almost $2.7 million, $2,675,000 to 153 homeowners and 330 renters on the island of Maui. So 483 beneficiaries total were served. I think so Trustee Lindsay and her team are helping to kokua. We extended. We did have some applicants who did not turn in forms, and so they have offered kokua to help get those in. But we have made many efforts to continue communication with them. I too would like to thank Ilima and her team, bonus team, and our temp admin assistant, Micah Kahiva, who have been managing this whole process. It's an OHA driven process. But anyway, at the request of Trustee Lindsay, we are going to reopen Kana'aho for the remainder of the fiscal year. It's going to run through June 30, 2025. We don't anticipate we'll get a flood of additional applications as we had, kept it open until December. I'd say we were getting on average 2 to 5 new applications throughout each month. So we would like to reopen it. We're having a Maui, Mea'ai, and Mana'o meeting soon, as well as the Island Community meeting. So if there are, any residents who have been impacted, we would still like to, provide that opportunity for them to be able to get some aid and some kako'o. So that is our update on our current Kana'aho grant.
I want to
Pouhana, and, Kehal and Tony. I'd like to mahalo you guys for the presentation, but unfortunately there was 4 items that was presented. So I just want to get the update. I don't, and
I have a question of Kehau.
sorry, one sec, couple. Sorry. No. And sorry, and what is the next update? No, just so we're clear. Okay. For them, okay, got it. I just want to, yeah, make sure. Thank you.
So trustee, I have a question.
Trustee Lindsay.
Thank you. Since we're talking about the AHO money and the Kana'aho grants, my question to our administration is, how many machines do we have signing up our Hawaiians for the Hawaiian card?
We
I
have
thought we
two.
had one on every island and it was collected and,
I was, no, I was just made aware we have two, one here on Oahu and one on Maui.
okay. Well, I just want to make sure Maui has, while we're trying to wind down this project on Maui. But, I don't think that Roy feels comfortable about doing his cards there. So I'd like to have somebody from administration reinforce his unsureness. Okay? Because they might be coming in as soon as we announce. By the way, the Namea'ai on Maui is Tuesday.
Just a quick question. All that money that we helped with the Kana'aho funds on Maui, where did that money come from? Was that from when we gave money to Maui? Oh, the 5 million?
It's the 5 million.
Yeah, it's the 5 million, and so we're just under 3 million of the 5. So still get kala to
Just was checking.
share.
So we're trying to give out a little more. They're still suffering.
All right, members, any other questions? Oh, yeah, Tony, go ahead.
So I just wanted to share, that number one, we're going to be sending out a survey to Kana'aho recipients. And that will go out on March 17th. The awardees will be invited to share their Mana'oan experiences to help us refine efforts on, potential remaining funds and how they can be distributed. So we want to make sure that if we do not expense the 5 million, which it doesn't look like we're tracking to that right now, that we explore other ways to circulate that back into the community. We have done some community research, and with the assessments that we made from that community research, we would like to come back to the board and eventually recommend potentially something for kupuna and explore ideas potentially for housing, because those were the two pieces of feedback that we heard very loud and clear from the community. We don't have it drilled down yet, but I definitely, when we do, we want to bring it back to the board and discuss how we can look at the remaining funds and what it could be distributed for.
Trustee Ahuna.
Yeah, in consultation with Trustee Lindsay.
Just so you know, when people on the Hawaiian Homes list, they can acquire a house. A lot of times they're only giving certain options. Maybe we can meet with Hawaiian Homes and become a third option so that we can help too with that. A lot of them don't qualify and stuff like that. I'm just saying, because this happens to us all the time, especially kupuna and stuff. So, I mean, and that's our beneficiaries too over there too. And then one last thing, for Trustee, I like everything, performance based. I'm not a content standard guy anymore, but I like how we improving. But like how we define AI and stuff like that. Like, people don't care what my definition of AI is. I think it's important that OHA defines it. So I mean, we help pick it. We define it through OHA. So people understand it.
Mahalo,
Thank you.
trustee. I think that's a great topic that we can bring to BAE as we talk about MIMO. And because I think that would be the starter.
Yeah, and to that, so would we need to revise the memo?
I think so because, well, and again, depending on how this conversation evolves in the BAE, right now there is nothing explicit in MIMO, in Mana i Mauliola, that talks to EA. However, with that said, we do have Chapter 10H, which is very clear about OHA's role in the creation of self-governance.
Okay, so so we might have to go look at the revise. I mean, I just thought about it just now.
It's a good point, and MIMO really should be an extension of our Hawaii revised statutes because by law that's what we're required to do as an agency. So it would make sense that we would cascade our Mana i Mauliola strategic plan outcomes to HRS.
Amazing.
Anything else? Pony, Keho, Kapo.
Yes. I
Trustee
just wanted to
Papa.
point out under the Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment, when you look at the bylaws, one of the points that it's made is to develop programs that focus on beneficiary health, human services, economic stability, education, and Native rights, and develop policies and programs relating to housing, land use, the environment, and natural resources. So I do believe that that does fall in line with the Mana i Mauliola, the strategic plan, and so forth.
Mahalo, Trustee Akaka. And I would also encourage Elena and your team also to reach out to the trustees or maybe meet one-on-one or because I know the implementation part of that department also helps to implement our ideas and make it come to fruition somehow if it aligns ultimately at the end of the day with our strategic plan. And I know that's why this department was potentially established as well. So if we could set up those meetings potentially with the trustees and yeah,
We just have one final update from our education team. So Chantel Bele is going to come and share about Ola Kai.
Aloha, Chantel.
Aloha, trustees. So I just wanted to share a quick update on Ola Kai. And it was a very collaborative project between the education program, community engagement, and with our communications team. So we were able to attend 6 total events, 3 on Oahu, 1 on Maui, 1 on Kauai, and 1 in Hilo. The data that we provided is just missing our Kauai update. That just happened last weekend. So we'll be updating this report for you. What we were able to do was create an activity book that we sent over to all of your offices. It was really well received, and we hope to continue to expand and grow on it. But overall, we were able to distribute over 900 of these books at the event, and we engaged over 2,000 individuals. That number will increase once we have our Kauai numbers in. And working with our communications team, they were able to do social media posts and blasts, and so those were viewed by over 27,000 people. So we feel once we have our final numbers and the numbers with our partner organizations, the reach of this event was amazing. It was great to work with Kanaiokana, our other partners. We even had grantees there that work with OHA on our different islands. So it was a really great event to celebrate Olelo Hawaii.
That's the end of our report, Vice Chair.
Mahalo ka Pouhana and Mahalo Chantel and Pony and Keho. And you know, these updates, Kapuana is not meant to grill anybody but we're so engaged. I think everyone's excited going back to Trustee Akina's point earlier. And so we're excited to see where this moves. I think we just overall, just everything in this organization, the trustees want a regular update no matter what PAIA, no matter having to do with the handbook and anything, like just bring in regular updates. We understand that we create the policy and you guys work on implementing it and do the legwork anyway before you guys bring it back to us. So if things are not ready, we understand. But when it is. Mahalo.
No, we appreciate it and we're excited too. You know, there's a lot of good work that's happening. And so I think with the establishment of the MIMO working group, that's going to be the precursor for BAE is going to be a tremendous communications channel
Right.
for us to make sure that we get all of our strategic outcome information out to the trustees.
Working on this together. So mahalo. Thank you. I think next item on the agenda, item number 5.
I move that we adjourn.
Oh, wait, no, not yet. Not yet. Not gonna get off that easy. Community concerns and celebrations, and I believe we do have Jermaine Meyer signed up to speak on this item. Hello, Jermaine. Can we please get the clock up? Perfect, thank you. I know you was gonna ask for a clock that said I was on it.
Aloha, Chair and trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. SB 903 SD1, the Global Settlement Bill. I feel administration and BOT Chair Kahele should inform the members of the Hawaiian Affairs and WAM committees that OHA's written testimony given to them at the joint hearing on February 18 that provided comments, of which its comments at its core supports engaging with the state and legislature to complete a global settlement, was given without the full board's knowledge and approval. This board voted in support of completing the work of the Public Land Trust Working Group. SB 903 repeals the PLT Working Group. If the Senate is in support of doing what is pono for the Hawaiian peoples of Hawaii, it would support number 1, the appropriations of $1 million for the PLT Working Group to complete its work, to complete the processes and systems to determine the accurate ceded land inventory and PLT revenues. And number 2, give OHA its correct annual pro rata share in perpetuity. It's interesting that after the joint hearing on February 18 for Senate Bill 903 SD1, the chairs of the committee submitted Senate Standing Committee Report 804 to Senate President Kochi on behalf of the Joint Committees Hawaiian Affairs and WAM that includes the following findings. Your committees find that any settlement valuation between the state and the Office of Hawaiian Affairs must be accurate, data-driven, and informed by due diligence, ensuring that the state has the proper systems in place to accurately identify and calculate revenues from the public land trusts. Currently, state and county agencies use different formulas to identify public land trusts and calculate public land trust revenues, leading to significant undercounting of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs public land trust revenue share. This measure will establish a working group to determine the process by which the Office of Hawaiian Affairs may negotiate a settlement with the state and ensure that any settlement between the state and Office of Hawaiian Affairs is accurate and just. For me, as a Native Hawaiian beneficiary, accurate and just would be to complete the work of the Public Land Trust Working Group that was led by Chair Emeritus Hulu Lindsay, and give OHA the accurate annual pro rata share its due in perpetuity. I look at history and I see how the state legislature and the governors have been treating OHA after the 2012 settlement in the form of its kaka'ako lands, that we have never received entitlements to build residential multifamily housing for Native Hawaiians. I also look at the years of delays with the OHA Salary Commission. Matthew 10:16, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves. Be ye therefore wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Kia kuapu, God bless all of you.
Mahalo, Jermaine. Thank you so much. Members, if there are no other community concerns or comments, Trustee Lindsay, would you like to make the motion? I'm looking for a motion to adjourn. Mahalo, Trustee Lindsay, and is there a second? Motion made by Trustee Lindsay, seconded by Trustee Galutario. Can we get a roll call vote, Leo?
Too many mics around. I know, but that's all right. Okay, Trustee Ahuna said yes. Trustee Akaka
Aye.
and Trustee Galutaria.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay
Aye.
and Vice Chair Souza.
Aye.
We have 5 yes votes. We are adjourned.
Motion passes. Mahalo, members.